the truth is that most countries have not recovered from the effect of COVID-19. Most countries are still struggling, are still feeling the effect of COVID-19.
Okay.
So, for Donald Trump and Africa, as Africa is not finding it funny at all. So
on the tariff increase.
On the tariff, sure, because most African countries are import dependent. So there's a gun in Texas, a gun in Tel Aviv increases things in Africa.
Okay.
Because we are not economically independent. So that's why when they cause problem, the Africa suffer. Okay. So even KG, that's KGMB, that's one of the biggest auditing firms in the world.
Right.
Said that no country can tax its citizens to richness. Understand? So what the tariff is causing is inflation in Africa. So we are now paying more than we are supposed to pay.
All right.
We are now bearing the burden of the Western world because they want Africa to remain poor so that they can be using us as source of raw material.
Now, Doctor, I'm still staying with you here. There is the conversation about the plans to extend the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, which gives the continent preferential access to the U.S. market. But as an economist, if Africa is not going to get access, preferential treatment access into the U.S. Market, would this not pose a risk, particularly on economies in Africa, if this act is not extended by 1 year following the tariff increase from Donald Trump on some of the African countries?
For me, what I feel Africans should do is start looking inwards. Understand? Start developing with what you have. That's how India developed, by shooting the Western world out. That's go inside, develop with what you have. That's the same way Japan developed. Right. Because after the Second World War, Japan was in ruins. But they begin to pick all their bits and pieces together. Today, they are the 5th biggest economy in the world.
So practically, Africans need to start looking inward.
So we should start with what we have. Let us look inward, begin to think Africa, begin to patronize Africa. That's the only way to be truly independent. Because you cannot claim to be independent why you cannot feed yourself. Understand? Western world is controlling your economy, dictating what to do, using IMF and World Bank to keep you poor, to keep you down on a daily basis.
Right.
Because IMF is a Western instrument to keep Africa poor.
Well, I don't know if Dr. Opul in Uganda is going to maybe align with this particular sentence from Dr. here, that IMF's major underground plan is just to keep Africans poor. Some quarters will say that the leadership in Africa seem to be the problem because accountability of these loans that is being gotten by IMF is on another level because they are not accounting for it. It's either going into private pockets or it's not been invested fully for what it was asked for. But let's look at the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA. There's a call for it to be extended by a year. Do you think, as it stands, the U.S. government might, in their own magnanimity, look at Africa to wanting to allow it happen, following the fact that there is tariff increase on some of these African nations? Plus, again, the same statements I made earlier about the IMF and Africa.
Yeah, thank you so much, David, and thank you to my colleague Doctor. First of all, you are talking about the loans from IMF. Who told you we need loans in Africa? That is one. And then any interaction, whether economically, politically, socially, with the US, chances are high, almost over 85% or 80% is the robbery. There's a lot of cheating, there's a lot of robbery, there's a lot of dishonesty. And in most cases, when African leaders analyze these agreements, sometimes they are presented with a cosmetic situation when they go to the US, or they even pay the money to accept to sign these agreements. But by and large, Africa and Africans, the local African, in the village in Nigeria, in Uganda, in South Africa, wherever, they don't benefit from most of these agreements. If you look at AGOA was here in Uganda, is there in Kenya, and in most of the African countries. And like Professor, my colleague in the studio said, Doctor, said that, yeah, we really don't need many of these things that we get from the US or from most of the European countries or from the global north, if you want me to put it right. Many of the countries, especially the Asian tigers, recently have been in China. You cannot develop when you want to rely on, external goods without producing your own. So for us now as Africa, I think we need to focus on our education system that will focus on production of goods and services that we should substitute with the ones that we should be importing from the global north or from the Western world.
Right.
We should start manufacturing phones, manufacturing cars, manufacturing what? Most of the things like food and so on, we have Africa has enough food.
But then, now sorry to butt in now, Dr. Opol. The conversation about what we need is on another level. But we find African leaders clearly going to IMF to seek for these loans. You did say earlier that who told us that we need these loans. So where then is the leaders in Africa seeing their own development from if they don't go for these loans?
Now, first of all, if you look at the person who's looking or who's getting a loan, look at the lifestyle of most of the African heads of state. I see a convoy for a Nigerian president, almost over 100 cars. The same applies to anywhere in Africa. Why on earth do you need over 100 cars, lead cars, security, protection, and so on? Moreover, those are physical things we're able to see, but there are things that we're not able to see about lots of stages, luxury, as far as our leaders and the other top civil servants are concerned.
Right.
So the loans that we get are really not necessary, and no one needs a loan in Africa. We need, maybe if we need our internal loans within Africa, maybe by African Development Bank. That's where we need to focus on. But also, honestly, when you look at right now, the way Africa is, the way China is, I can tell all the Asian countries, you find that roads are 100% tarmac. These people prioritize for their citizens. Everything is about citizens. People are saying that, maybe dictatorship is not bad, socialism or communism is very bad. But you go to China, okay, democracy is there, but very, very minimal. But right. The people they see the value for the money from their taxpayers, from their heads of state, from their leaders. We just need to reorganize our minds. We don't need loans. Not even one loan we need from the Western world.
All right, then. Let me bring this conversation to the studio here. Doctor, more like Dr. Opol in Uganda is also agreeing to this, but there is this conversation about African leaders not looking inward, which again, Dr. Opol and yourself did mention. Again, as it stands, we're talking about loans being gotten by IMF. And as we speak right now, William Ruto of Kenya has said that the country is expected to sign a trade deal with the United States by the end of the year that will be pushing Washington to extend their duty-free agreement with Africa for at least 5 years. Do we really need these things? And again, there is also the conversation of the leadership in Africa not being sincere about themselves. The body language is different as against what they tell the people. What's your opinion with this particular conversation of hustle for FDIs, as it were, by these African leaders in Africa?
There's a saying, who goes a borrowing goes a sorrowing. So whenever you sign any deal with the Western world, America, Europe, they are benefiting. They are benefiting because their concern is their interest. Okay. And a white man would always ask one question: what will I gain from this?
In other words, African leaders are not having a strong bargaining power when they go into this kind of conversations of these.
You cannot have a strong bargaining power.
Even with the mineral resources that is embedded in the continent.
Because one, you don't know how to manage it. If you know how to manage it, you will not go seeking for loan. If you know how to manage it, you will not go seeking for loan.
So it's now about management, Dr. Peter.
I've told you on this program, there's no poor country anywhere. What we have is poor resource management. Africans are not managing what they have underneath their soil. Then Western countries are sponsoring crisis in Africa so that they can be taking those resources free of charge. Understand? They are sponsoring a crisis in Africa so that they can be taking these resources free of charge. Or that's what is happening in DR Congo and other countries in Africa.
Doctor, William Ruto, the Minister of Lesotho, these guys together, as it stands, they are all in, that includes the Vice President of Nigeria as well in the US for the UN UNGA. But the conversation from that Congress is the fact that Africa needs much more funding from the US, from IMF, and all of the other bodies that can give them funding. How and why?
They are not thinking right. There's no way a country as blessed as Nigeria, as Kenya, as Uganda, as South Africa should go begging. We have all the resources here in Africa, but the problem is this management. The problem is corruption and management. If you think Africa, eat Africa, drink Africa, you will not go borrowing. And your respect will be for you. I
like this part that you've just mentioned. Think Africa, drink Africa, do whatever with Africa. But there is a part of the legislatures. Do you think, as it stands, because these countries are also democratically are being run. They are sovereign nations with democracy. What happened to their legislators? Why are they not doing the functions of oversight?
Excuse me. What you see mostly in Africa is autocracy under the guise of democracy, including Nigeria. What you see is autocracy in the guise of democracy. You cannot have democracy where there's no separation of powers. You cannot have a democracy where only the executive is functioning. Understand me? The executive appointed the judges, the natural commissioners, right, appointed key office holders in the legislative arm. That is not democracy.
Again, Doctor, on the part of the legislators, if these are loopholes that should be corrected, why are these elected legislators across Africa not standing their ground and deciding on rejigging their constitution, particularly Nigeria? And I'm going to use that as a case study.
Now in Nigeria, or the president influences who becomes the Senate president, influences who becomes or the speaker, influences who becomes the chairman of the committees. So they all are in the pocket of the president. Or the president dictates what happened in in the National Assembly. So this is not democracy, it is autocracy under the disguise of democracy.
All right, then let's take this conversation again to Uganda. Well, Dr. Opul, at this point, it is something that is quite disturbing across Africa. Why do you think legislative houses in Africa are clearly not doing what they're supposed to be doing, particularly checkmating the executive when these kind of policies are being made on the part of electing who is going to be the electoral chairman or who is going to be the head of a particular major particular agency? Why do you think the legislators, I beg your pardon, are not doing their function, particularly at the oversight and overall overseeing the executive at the top?
Yeah, David and the doctor, you're aware that for you to become a political leader in Africa, at any level, especially at the level of head of state, legislature, you must spend money. And that money is for buying power from the common man. You are buying power from the poor people. You buy them salt, you buy them drinks, you buy them whatever they need. And then they will vote you, and you got power. And sometimes this money that the candidates, the politicians use to buy power from the common man, sometimes is given from the executive. Maybe the president in power has the money to say, David, doctor here, Joseph, go and contest. So therefore, if the legislator wins, whose interest does he serve? Is he serving the interest of the common person who has voted for him, or is serving the interest of the donor who has given him money to come into leadership? So in most cases, the legislators have served the interest of the funder, the person who has given you the money, because without money, you wouldn't have gotten power from the community. And as you know that the money that they use for buying power from the community is not meant to develop them.
Right.
There is no economy in the world which has developed because of bribing the electorate. It's never there. This is just something, Spanado, painkiller. You get something for today and you continue swimming in your poverty. So that's basically the reason. There is nothing much.
Quite unfortunate.
But the day when the leaders start questioning themselves, I think this happened sometime in Senegal, when the president tried to bribe the legislature. But the legislature say, but now, whose money is this person using? Give us. It's our taxpayers' money. He gets from us, then he brings it back to us, and we say that he's a good person. And I think he lost that deal. So when we start questioning ourselves, I think that will be able to change.
All right, then. I'm still going to stay with you, Dr. Joseph. Interestingly, opposition politician, I'm talking about Bobby Wine, has been cleared by the electoral body in your country. And this, of course, he's going to be standing against incumbent president, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, for the second time during his political career, of course, in which, he's been arrested and jailed multiple times. But looking at the fact that Bobby Wine is currently being cleared, does that also clearly state that the likes of the president, I'm talking about Yoweri Museveni, would be having to really do stronger things when it comes to the next election cycle? You would also recall that the president has said that it would be his last time wanting to run for office. What's your position with that statement as well? Plus, how do you think Bobby Wine is prepared, strong enough to challenge a man that has been there for 4 decades and counting?
Yeah, yes. I would like first of all to congratulate Bobby Wine for being cleared to contest against President Yoweri Museveni. At the same time, I would also like to congratulate His Excellency Yoweri Museveni Kaguta. He was also nominated and he has been cleared to contest. And among other candidates, I think those are the most prominent ones. There could be other candidates. First of all, elections, you know that you need to try your best. You need to market your programs. You need to market your agenda to the community. One, I can assure you that it's not a guarantee that President Yoweri Museveni Kaguta will win. It's not a guarantee that Robert Chagulanyi, or the one you call Bobby Wine,
right,
will win. It's open to anyone. Maybe President Yoweri Museveni will win. Maybe Chagulanyi will win. But of course, what you all know is that usually the incumbents have a stronger advantage. Even in the US, where the president is supposed to resign, but you have all the security, you have all the government apparatus, you have access to all the resources. You can fly instead of moving by road. You can fly. You have security. You have all this.
Right.
So the incumbents usually have a chance.
Has upper hands.
I think President Yoweri Museveni still has a big chance.
All right then.
To win, but that one is not a guarantee that he is going to win.
All right then.
You see what happened in Zambia. Opposition. You see what has happened in Malawi right now.
Exactly.
The person who is there has lost election. So really depends on
the will of the people.
Yes.
All right, then. Thank you so very much, Mr. Joseph. Let me bring it back to the studio. Doctor, 30 seconds. Do you think as it stands?
I'm happy with this topic because I have done a research on it,
Right.
which I captured in my book.
Okay.
In the 80s, incumbents has 93 chance of winning the next election. But in the 80s,
Right.
But now that's what is known as incumbency bias.
Okay.
Since COVID-19, post-COVID-19, no incumbent has won second term. Since post-COVID,
Right.
no incumbent has won that's the second term. In 2024, there were 6 elections in Africa. All the incumbents lost the elections. In Liberia, George Weah was defeated. In Senegal, the incumbent was defeated. In Ghana, the incumbent was defeated. In South Africa, Ramaphosa lost majority for the first time and had to form a coalition in order to form his government and now share political offices.
Okay.
So you saw what happened in Malawi.
Right.
In Mauritania, Mauritius, incumbents are losing everywhere.
Oh well, that.
So people don't want to see the same face anymore.
Well,
so any election that incumbent win, the process was manipulated. I'm telling you.
Okay then. That again is your submission on that particular story. But yes, this is where we have.
Even in UK and in America.
Right. Following those facts, really, I cannot argue.
Argentina.
I cannot argue those facts because yes, truly, yes, it's just been like that in recent time, post-COVID precisely. But yes, this is where we have to draw anchor on the analysis segment of the news. And I want to say big thank you to the gentlemen who did lend their voice in this conversation. In the studio with us, we had Dr. Peter Anosike, who is a seasoned economist in Nigeria and of course a writer, plus as well he is here in the capacity of a political and public affairs analyst. Once again, Doctor, thank you so very much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Also, we had joining us virtually award-winning Dr. Joseph Opul. I like to call you that. Dr. Joseph Opul is a doctoral fellow at the University of Dar es Salaam, Gulu University, and director of Opul Skilling Foundation. Once again, Dr. Joseph, thank you so very much for being here.
Thank you very much.
All right, then have a great day ahead as well. We'll take a quick break right now. When we return, straight up, we'll be having more stories to give you on the African news. Please do stay with us. To have you back at the studio, African News, right here on Voice of the People Television. Now to more stories. Somalia's President Hassan Sheikh Mohammed has said he is a prime target of the Islamic group Al-Shabaab, which is affiliated to Al-Qaeda. In an interview, he said the militants had tried to assassinate him 5 times in the last 2 years, most recently in March.